Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the VMblog Expert Interview Series. And today we're happy to be joined by Mat Ellis, the CEO of FasterBetter and a well-known startup investor and advisor. Matt, welcome.
That's good to be here, David.
So we're happy to have you on the show. And I guess to kind of kick things off, I'd like to get into your background a little bit. You founded Cloudability in 2011. And were an early pioneer of cloud cost management. And you also created the term FinOps. Can you tell us a little bit more about that background?
Yeah, so in the noughties, we used to work in ad tech, a variety of startups. And at one particular company, we had a little data center issue, as in it had a fire. And we were forced to use the cloud, not because we were cool kids, but because we were a little bit desperate. And that got us familiar with it. One of my colleagues was using it day to day. He thought it was a good idea. And he had a number of cost overages, spending overages. In one case, they got an alert back saying, you've reached your max number of instances. So they just created another account. And at the end of the month, they had $100,000 overspend. So, early on, I'd had some experience with this. I left that startup to do something, and I got sick and had a liquidity crunch. This is pre-Obamacare. And so I went to help some friends move on to the cloud when I got better. And these people were helping me out, kind of. They needed cloud. They wanted cloud. I could help them. But they were doing me a favor. And so when they complained about the bill, I couldn't charge them a few $100s for logging into Amazon and telling them what their spending was. So I wrote this little screen scraper that sent them a daily email, and magically they stopped calling me. It was a courtesy. It was no particular big vision. And I went to Iceland for a week, and when I came back home, my phone was full of messages from people I'd never met who were complaining that they were not getting this email that I was supposedly paid to send them. And I was really taken aback about how emotional these people were. They were angry. They were mad at me. They cared about this email. So I fixed it, and I talked to a few of them. And that's when I realized that all cloud is that technology has matured to the point where instead of it being a technical problem, how do we keep this server going? It's now become a supply chain problem. How much of this do I put in my product? And matching the spending with the ROI is a really big deal. So like every industry goes through this. Ford used to run rubber plantations in the Amazon because making rubber was really hard and it was critical to building a car. And then World War II came along, and for other reasons, we had to figure out how to make rubber synthetically. And now you could have unlimited quantities of extraordinary quality rubber, and it became how much rubber goes in my car? How does it help sell it? How does it help operate it? How do we limit it? How do we do more? All those questions, right? And so that's why I started Cloudability. It was like that zing moment. Unfortunately, with anything that's a little early, a little new, people don't understand it. People had a real hard time getting their head around cloud. Why would I rent a server instead of buying it? And you can talk about fundamental economic theory. You can point at other industries. A lot of people don't know this, but the price of a family car in the United States has not gone up in 25 years. And yet you look at a car 25 years ago, it would never be competitive in this market. And that's the advantage of supply chain. Every supplier is forced to get cheaper and better constantly. But hey, no one gets this. And so, we were powerfully incented to solve this problem of how to explain what we're doing. And we would talk about FinOps among ourselves, but it wasn't until we went all in on it that suddenly the light bulb went off and people understood that we're not doing cloud cost management. No one likes to be told your credit limit has been reduced. You need to go tidy up. You need to turn this off. You're doing it wrong. What they want is a new capability, which is to move fast, constantly improve in capability, constantly reducing unit cost. And so we started to share our best practices with the world and each other's best practice, because it wasn't just us. Some of our best customers are really innovating in this space. Some people out there outside of Cloudability were really thinking broad in this space. And so we decided to kind of dumb it down and give it a name. And it's gone really well.
Now, as part of your startup advisor and board member background, I understand you're joining the board of directors at Finout. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Right. So, you know, there's a number of companies. There's a lot of companies today in this space. There's this explosion of creativity. So what happens is, I think, you solve a problem, you bring it to the world, people begin to get it, and then a new set of problems appear. And so, when we were dealing with Cloudability in the first few years, we had to store people's passwords to Amazon in our systems. Literally had to give us their passwords, right? Because getting that data, processing that data, even at any scale, was really hard. Today, now the problem is how to get it in to the whole of your business, how to get a unit cost that's actually representative of of what you're actually doing. And so, things like a total bill, a mega bill, getting all of your costs in, helping developers instrument what they're doing and think about it in terms of margin instead of cost, things like this. There's a lot of innovation going on here. And as someone who I had to take a step back after we sold Cloudability. They give you some powerful non-competes. And now I'm free of that. I've gone back in and had a look at the market. I care very much about FinOps, and the Finout team just feel like they're in the best place to do this kind of innovation, to get this in and get in the hands of the people using it, so that we can actually, at Cloudability, we had a team of people who would produce a monthly report half in of the month that would show us the actual cost that we were spending per customer. So I could look at the revenue, and not the average cost, but the actual cost, and not just the Amazon bill, but everything we were spending on a unit cost basis. And it took this team, 10 days to do this. It was part of our financial cycle. Being out there in real time was always a vision of mine, that you could talk in a meeting with the business and the finance and your colleagues in engineering and go, well, the unit cost is trending this way or that way, and we need to do something about it. And that's, to me, the next step. And these are the team working on it, and the most capable team working on it.
Now, it's been a long time since Cloudability. I think you founded it over a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
How have things evolved since then? And do you think cloud cost management is needed even more today than back then?
I'll take that second question first, David, and then come back to that. If you take the example of the family car in the US, and you look at that Camry from 25, 30 years ago, it is an utterly uncompetitive car. And the reason that car's got better is because Toyota knew all the options for all the things it bought. It knows the cost for each individual car, not on average, actually, right? So now there's a supply chain, there's a component manufacturer who bought a little company in Israel of metallurgists, people who look at the science of metal. And these guys, half a dozen scientists, they made the metal 1 to 2% stronger, which means the wheel can be 1 to 2% lighter, 1 to 2% less material, 1 to 2% cheaper, 1 to 2% cheaper to ship, right? So one of the component manufacturers buys this company and puts it to work on their wheels. So now Toyota, one day, the other two guys wake up and go, what happened to the Toyota wheel order? And they go, the other guy got it, look. And they go, one of two things. We can close our $300 million wheel plant, or we can sell wheels to Toyota at 1 or 2% less. But now we're losing money. So now we've got to find a way to make that money up, right? So you've got this constant improvement in the product, this constant reduction in the cost, or you go out of business and it thins out the herd. And now these people who make wheels, they make more wheels than Toyota does. They make more wheels than any car manufacturer does. They specialize. It's called comparative advantage. And so any firm that's making software at scale, it has to do this, or it'll be left behind. It'll have a 1993 version of the Camry. And it's that simple, okay? And I think the industry's realizing this. My own prediction is in 10 or 20 years' time, a lot of cloud users will stop writing software and will start buying other people's systems. So there are a lot of people out there who are not software developers. They shouldn't be, a hotel operator, an airline, maybe they should write some software that's specific to their business, but why write software that sends an invoice? Okay. And so the people who send the invoice they're going to send billions of invoices, and there'll be 55 cents an invoice on this guy and 50 cents on that guy, but this guy can add sales tax or go overseas, and that, I think, is the future. So if you're going to be selling invoices over the internet, you better be selling the best invoices at the best cost. And you just can't do this unless you put efficiency at the heart of your thinking. And efficiency doesn't mean a lower bill. So many of our customers at Cloudability who got this, they took their savings and they put it into a better product. And car manufacturers did this. Cars haven't got cheaper. There is a buying point that people are willing to pay, and you buy the best car you can. So when they save some money, now they can put air conditioning in your car. They can put chrome alloy wheels on your car. They can put metallic paint on your car that the last year or 5 years ago they couldn't do. And so, I think the industry's realizing this. When we started, the only people who really cared about this were the smartest kids or people who were under severe financial pressure. Private equity-owned software companies, supermarkets, people like this who really cared about the tiniest margin, and the rest of the world, like, no, it's opportunity because I haven't got time to go deal with it. So, yeah, it's absolutely core to modern technology businesses today. What was the first question again? Do you mind reminding me?
Yeah, just thinking about the evolution.
Right.
Of things since Cloudability, was over a decade.
So today, people know what they're spending, all right, but they don't know what they're spending per unit of cost. So they've done the first bit, which is to gather the bills and keep an eye on them. And they're having, helpful, productive adult conversations. There's much less now of finance waving their stick. And, no one at Toyota goes, why did our wheel bill double last month? Well, we sold twice as many cars. And that level of sophistication has got to that level now. But the smartest people in the room are looking at, our spending might have gone up, but our churn went down. Or our spending went up and, people pay more for the products. We've got bigger commitments, longer contracts, So that more sophisticated understanding that we spent this much on this customer and this much on that customer is just beginning. It takes a lot of effort to get there. Some smart people struggle to do it. But that problem's now the next problem to be cured, and then act on it. So I think sometimes you're seeing the cart put before the horse. I'll do all this optimization. Well, why? Let's just save money. Why? So could you be using that time to make a better product rather than a cheaper one? Is it always a cheaper product better? In some cases, no. Right. So you're seeing, and with the recession coming, you're seeing a lot of people talk about we saved this much money. Well, all you're doing is you're fixing past problem. Are you fundamentally changing how you think about your business? A good example is a company, I can't name names, of course, but one company was buying maps, and consumers saw them and their users saw them. They were like the provider of the service and the end user of the service. And these end users, they were seeing the maps for 2 to 8 seconds every time, and they really care about the quality of maps. These other guys, they're using the maps all day long. If you give them a blank page, they find the other guy. They wouldn't struggle, right? So you could cut the cost of this without any effect, really. And it was a big cost because you're using it all day long. But this cost, if you cut it, they wouldn't use your service, right? And so that kind of nuanced discussion and understanding around, let's give these guys the very best, and let's give these guys a medium, and just kind of, keep an eye on it and see if we can give them slightly cheaper or slightly better. What does it do to our business? Does it increase the amount of usage? Does it, it might reduce our margin, but increase our volume. And companies like Walmart, when they sell a product very cheaply, they understand velocity. So if they sell something at a 2% margin 5 times in the time it takes Target to sell that 10% margin once, they're in the money. So this more sophisticated understanding is just beginning, I think. Now we've got the tools. We're overwhelmed with data right now. We don't know if we're doing it efficiently, but more importantly, we're not matching cost with revenue. That ROI is still not really there.
Yeah, that's a good example. I was going to ask you what you thought, FinOps actually looks like in an organization that you think does it really well and does it properly. And then do you think developers and operators are really going to keep track of finances?
Developers are never going to keep track of finances, all right? And you don't want to task them with that, just like accountants won't keep track of GitHub pull requests and lines of code written. It's just using a screwdriver as a chisel in that example. What developers need to care about is efficiency, and they need to care that so developers do care that their code runs right. I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and some guy wrote a little app, and it took a month to run, and suddenly his audience are trying to make it run quicker and quicker and quicker, and they got it down to 5 milliseconds. So from 30 days to 5 milliseconds. And the dude was good enough to make a video about how crappy his code was, right? Now, 30 days is a good time to write, is a bad time to length of time. 10 minutes, 1 minute, great. Why do you go to 5 milliseconds, right? Now, the engineers knew that they were making a mess of this just for fun, right? But there's a professional understanding of performance, and we're evolving a professional understanding of efficiency. And at Cloudability, I once had a principal engineer in my office complaining that we had a trial customer continue on another month. The sales had permitted this. But that was going to cost $7,000 next month. When you have engineers in your office complaining about too many computers, then you've got it right. Okay? When the engineers care, and the reason why he cared wasn't for the same reason that finance would care. Finance cares because they understand there's a limited amount of money, and if they say yes to you, I've got to say no to this other person, right? This engineer cared because by saying yes to this trial, we were saying no to some other feature, right? So once your developers understand that if they're good here, they get extra over there. We used to set it up that we had a target unit cost reduction, and we would split the winnings with the engineers. So we would frame it with our developers, and we were a VC-funded startup, so we could do that. We would say, we give you half the savings. So more efficient code means more coders. We're just going to move our spending from here to here, right? There are other ways to do that. What it looks like in an organization as a property is, first of all, the organization understands this is a supply chain issue, right? But unlike a regular supply chain, with oops, we ordered too many bolts. This thing is invisible, instant, and infinite. And by the way, it's perishable, right? So if I order too many EC2 hours, they're gone now. You didn't get to store them up in many cases and use them for next month, all right? So it's as critical and impactful an issue as your ERP is, but it's much riskier, much bigger peaks, much bigger sums of money, much harder to see. But in that organization, the right behaviors are incentivized. The business understands that this is a unit cost. They appreciate the efforts, the time spent on increasing efficiency. They understand that the right thing to do is to put as much as they can into the technology, rather than just go, right, great, we'll take that money back. And it's a cooperative thing, and it's just like anything. Businesses work better than individuals because two people together work more than 2 times better than two separate people working by themselves, and you add it up. So that amplification power of teamwork is just like any other product. People have been pushing back on this because they didn't understand it. They weren't given data. And frankly, engineers were egregious in their overspending. If you look at those lovely buildings from Austin behind you, without strict control, they'd all be twice as tall. Engineers love to build shit. And and now you've given them an infinite Lego set with no cost accountability because the bill comes in 6 weeks' time, right? You've got to put some limits on people. No one gets completely unlimited, but that's part of the R&D of learning a new thing. So I think that JR, the FinOps Institute Foundation, told me the other day that like 60% of Fortune 1000 companies now claim to do FinOps in some way. I mean, it's really spread, and it should, because it's a new modern discipline. I think that if you're doing compute on the cloud, you need to have a deep understanding of this, or you're going to lose your shirt or not be able to scale very far.
And Matt, as we wrap things up, just curious if you tell us why now? Why did you choose to join the board of Finout? And it kind of feels like a passing of the torch to the next generation of tooling. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, that's very flattering, but there's another group of people in the room now. There's a lot more, and they're all very smart. I mean, I had a non-compete. I wasn't able to work on any other company as part of the terms of selling Cloudability to Apptio, who've done a great job I mean, they've really taken the business to another level. They work really well with these bigger companies. We were investing to try and be the smartest product, and Apptio's taken it and made it one of the biggest products. And now we need the next generation. It's just like any industry. Cloudability was kind of a version 2 of Apptio, and now it's time for a version 3. To go out there and find out what's going on. So I didn't do anything sooner because I was under the constraint. We got an enormous amount of help at Cloudability. There were a lot of people who kind of got what we were doing and wanted to kind of help us succeed and give us advice and input. And so I felt an obligation to pay that forward in some ways. So, I've been talking to a lot of people in this space who are the new experts, the next wave. A lot of very interesting companies out there. It's going to be fun. If you're a customer of the cloud, you've got some good stuff coming at you and a good lot of choices. And I just love Roy and the team there. They reminded me a lot of us at Cloudy. They've got a great culture at the firm. Even their investors they think like we did at Cloudy, of valuing people, valuing our contribution to the world. One of the things that really drove us to Cloudy wasn't just being successful, but the amount of money we saved our customers in real cash dollars, in carbon dioxide emitted, in products improved, in salaries, freed up, jobs created versus spent on computers sitting in a data center doing nothing. And so that passion and that vision, all good. And I'm really honored to be able to be involved in some small way and help them. I know, and I hope that everyone in this space does well. I think that Finout's going to do pretty good. They've got a very big vision and a great team to go do it.
Well, Matt, this has been great. I've enjoyed this a lot. Thanks again for joining VMblog, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.